A great feeling from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning. Now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah. What a great way to start your day. The Lakey way.
Well, is everybody there? Gather around. Come one, come all. Everybody, take a little break from work. We can't be here too long. We've got to get back to work so we can give some tax dollars to the American government so they can pay for some more circumcisions in Mozambique. So, again, everybody work hard today because those circumcisions in Mozambique, last I heard, are we're behind the quota there. And also, we need some fiscal federalism in Nepal. So everybody work hard today because your government has things that you need to be working for to spend money on. We also, don't forget, we need to work extra hard today. I feel like it's an opening staff meeting, but the shifts change at Walmart right now. Ever see that? They stand in the aisle and they cheer and things like that. Well, I know everybody work hard. If you're retired, I need you to go back to work or make sure you donate or something because $486 million for the Consortium for Elections for Political Process and Strengthening in Moldavia. So again, we're behind on circumcisions in Bangladesh, and so we got to get on that. Or Mozambique, I'm sorry, wherever they're, I don't know where they're cutting the foreskins today, but I think it's Mozambique. Okay, we're behind in Mozambique. I'll check on the other place and see if we're Bangladesh and see how they're doing on circumcisions there, because we may need to send them some government money for some circumcisions there. We may need to. I will check with that in just a moment. All right, everybody. Good morning. It's Hump Day. Happy Friday. Happy Wednesday. Halfway till Friday. It's been a while since I said that. Happy Hump Day, halfway till Friday. And so this is a day that we get a little bit of slap happy, have a little bit more joy in our voice and lift in our spirits because it's the day the Lord has made, and Friday is coming soon. And I don't know where you're listening at or watching at this morning, but it is sunshine. And if you lived in where I lived yesterday, it was a dreary, ugly day. Colorado can be cold, but it's usually sunshiny. And yesterday was not sunshiny at all, and it was bitter cold. And today the sun is out, and it's a good day, halfway till Friday. All right, let's dive into some news. If you're new to the program, Jimmy Lakey is my name. I was years and years in corporate radio until corporate radio decided that local content did not matter. And they decided to put lack of talented, big-time hosts with big names on with big contracts, and they did that. It's just so I started this thing. We started this thing, producer Chad and I. It's a very expensive hobby right now, and we're unleashed from the bonds of corporate radio, and here we are together. So at any time, I want to tell you, if you stretch your hands towards your television screen, your video screen, nothing's going to happen. Just to let you know. Okay, so somebody, again, remember, work hard today. Circumcisions are behind quota in Mozambique, and I got to check on the status here in Bangladesh. Okay. All right, let's dive this up. President Trump has fired the remaining Department of Justice judges that were left over in the Justice Department. And people say, why does he have to do this scorched earth thing? You know, I know it's government and people approach government differently, but I'm thinking if you have a company, you go in and you know that your company has really screwed up and done some bad things. How do you don't have time, in my estimation, to go in and just do a nice interview and a litmus test and find out who's telling you the truth. You almost just have to assume that everybody's there that wasn't blowing the whistle on it is contaminated. Trump says, I've told DOJ to fire all remaining Biden-era U.S. attorneys. On Tuesday, we must immediately clean house, restore confidence in America's golden age, and we must have a fair justice system, and that begins today. The Justice Department did not immediately respond. Last week, the White House sent termination notices to several U.S. attorneys around the country who had been appointed by Joe Biden. But this week they decided, whoever appointed them, let's just clean house and start over. Do you agree or disagree with that move? Again, you're a limited time, short time to get this thing cleaned up in Washington, and I don't mind it at all. Again, people that have careers in Washington, D.C. for too long, they become corrupt, and I think it's okay. If you've been in the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. or anywhere, and you've been living off the government dole, maybe it's time for you to go get a job somewhere in the private sector and bring in a fresh set of eyes on the perspective and then rotate through. I think that's what our founders meant for our Congress and our legislators, and I believe it would work the same kind of concept for the U.S. Attorney's Office. But your thought, you may think that Donnie's being a meanie But again, I don't have a problem with it. Also, just see, he had a win in the court yesterday. A federal judge gave Trump a victory. They went to court and said 19 attorney general, I believe my state of Colorado was a part of that, protesting that DOGE was going to harm them and they shouldn't be allowed to DOGE anything. And they were told by the judge yesterday, I'm sorry, it's true. He's going to be able to do this, and there's not a problem here. So there's a victory for. We got the same link there twice, so on my sheet. So anyway, I'll put that out on the show sheet. I'll put it on the Facebook page so I can actually show you the link. Has anybody been following this thing? The boondoggle of Obama. I find this interesting. He is the longest sitting president out of office before opening a presidential library. He's working on his presidential library in Chicago, and it's still probably a year or so out from being completed. I mean, it's really, really behind schedule, and now it's tied up in lawsuits because when Obama started, he is on video. They saw it last night on television. He was telling all the workers there and all the contractors, we will have certain number of X number of races. It's his work client or his workers needed to match up with the demographics of Chicago. And so then it got way behind it. DEI and not quality was the focus. And now he's got one of the DEI firms suing him because he broke it is a cluster mess. And what's amazing, I think they're getting sued now for $40 million, still over a year away from opening this darn thing. And what's amazing, there's going to be some millionaire or billionaire that thinks that Obama has some influence and they're going to continue to give Obama money. That's what's really, really bizarre. It has been, as of yesterday, 2,951 days and counting since Obama was in office, and he has no presidential library. To give you an example, Reagan had his library open within 1,018 days of leaving office. Clinton had his what Rush Limbaugh called it, the brothel and the massage parlor. Clinton had his open at 1,398. W. Bush had his open at 1,556, 1,500 days. And H.W. Bush had his library open in 1,700 days. Obama, within just a month, is going to be at 3,000 days, and it's all because of lack of ability to focus on outcome as opposed to he wanted to focus on DEI. And by the way, if you've seen the building, it looks ugly. I mean, maybe it's going to clean up real nice, but it looks like this. It looks like, when I saw it, I said, is that a rock climbing gym? It looks like a structure where you would have a rock climbing gym. It's it's not pretty. Anyway, just throw that out there because if these people cannot even control, if these radical Democrats like this, Kamala Harris had the reins to her campaign 2 or 3 months, and she's $12 million, $20 million in debt. I mean, Obama's building a monument to himself to where people can come and worship and burn incense and say, all hail Barry Hussein. But he can't even manage that structure. I mean, these people are incompetent when it comes to management. And again, Republicans have their problems. Believe me, they're not all saints out there, but it is amazing just to watch in front of us the management that's happened the last few years under Biden, even Obama, who's the Lord and Savior for many Democrats out there. He's the man that they'll sacrifice babies at an abortion clinic to make happy. I mean, they'll do all this stuff for Obama, and they love him, but the guy can't manage his own altar. And this is his altar, his shrine. He's building it to himself, and he still can't manage it, and he's being sued. It may never get done. I mean, I think it will. Somebody will pony up. But the moment the big money donors decide that they're done with Obama, or Obama is no longer of value to them, they will cease to participate in the building of this monument to Obama. But it is a fascinating number by comparison. Obama is almost 3,000 days out from leaving office, and he still doesn't have his shrine. And Ronald Reagan had his shrine in about 1,000 days, that 1,018. By the way, have you been to many? This could be a question of the day. Chad asked me what our producer Chad asked what the question of the day was, and I said I thought of one, but I got busy. This could be one. Have you ever been to? How many presidential museums have you been to? And which one was your favorite? I geek out on this stuff. I've been to the Reagan Museum a couple of times. One time I was on business out there, went on my own. One time I went, I took my son there a few years ago. I love the Reagan Museum, and my son loved it as well. He was even in middle school when I took him. He thought it was fantastic as well. I've been to the the W Museum, the George W, on the campus of Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And it was okay. It was a lot about 9/11 that I remember a lot. I know they change up the displays in there. They had a lot of artifacts, of rocks from World Trade Center, etc. And then they had this strange section, if you remember, that George W. Bush is getting into painting, like it was artwork, like Hunter Biden, but better. So he's doing painting, like real painting. And they had a section dedicated to his art, and I appreciated it. The most fascinating, I think, was Reagan's for me. I have not been to the massage parlor for Clinton, as that's what Rush called it. I've not been there. How many presidential museums have you been to, and which has been your fave? And where do you think Donald Trump's museum is going to be? Now, if Reagan got his museum done in 1,018 days, I wouldn't be surprised if by the midterms Trump has his already up there. I mean, it's possible. Trump could already have his built, and we don't know it. I mean, do you think Trump's presidential palace is going to come in under budget? I bet it does. Obama's millions of dollars over budget and thousands of days behind schedule. And I'm just telling you, I'm asking you the question, which one do you think is, when will Donald Trump have his? And I bet he comes in under budget. I did go to the LBJ Museum down in Austin, Texas, the hill country of Texas. And I think they called it a museum and library, but the most fascinating part of LBJ was going out to the Texas White House. And up until a few years before that, it still had a Secret Service contingency there. And you drove on. It's where they used to land the airplane when the LBJ took over for Kennedy. And it was fully wired. And this was one of the fascinating things they told us told me on the tour, was that at the time that Kennedy got assassinated, within hours, that ranch, which had minimal security, was being fortified. They were putting in cables and wires, etc., to wire it up so there could be communication back to D.C., and it literally got wired to be the Texas White House for LBJ. And Lady Bird Johnson still lived at that house until a decade ago or so, but literally there were Secret Service people there 24 hours a day. And the day that she died, that day they packed their suitcases, walked out, and that was it. It was just kind of the interesting of the transition. Of they stayed with her until the very end, and then when it was over, and that Secret Service retired or went on to a different assignment. Anyway, question of the day, we throw that in there kind of a last minute. How many have you been to? The Truman Library in Kansas. I've never been to that one. I've passed it on the road. Is it in KC? It's out in the middle of nowhere. No, that's Eisenhower. Eisenhower is in the middle of Kansas. Is Truman's in KC? I didn't know that. Dwight Eisenhower, is that somewhere in the middle of heartland of Kansas there, I think. And is it a library? I'm not sure. But if you've been to many libraries or presidential shrines, feel free to jump in there. And which one do you want to go to? If you haven't been to one of these presidential libraries, which one do you want to go to? I mean, there is a part of me that wouldn't mind if I'm ever in Little Rock, go to see Willie Jeffs. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I don't think he has the blue dress on display. I don't know who has containment of the blue dress, but I'm not gonna drive in ice and snow to go see Willie Jeffs' library. Reagan, I wanted to see. I did want to see HW. I think that's at Texas A&M University, and if I ever find myself in the area, I might go. I mean, I've got a friend who's done road trips, and a lot of those were in Texas, and did road trips and hit all of these places. I have no desire in heaven and earth to go see Barry Obama's shrine. I just don't have. And I'm just happy that it's not up yet, because some people go sacrifice themselves there to 2,951 days, and they're still in lawsuits out there. Which museum would you most likely want to go to? Now, here's a question again. I'll get off the museum topic here in just a second. We'll play some video about construction and how liberals screw it up all the time. Don't you want to go see Trump's? I am telling you, when Trump puts out that, there will be a line out the door. There'll be stanchions like an amusement park and a turnstile to get in there. I think everybody's going to want to see that. It's going to be gold. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the best presidential museum ever. And I'm just curious as to where he's going to put it. And it's going to be interesting to see. And I think that'll be a popular one. And I think that's going to be, talk about a shrine, that's going to be gold. It's going to look like Taj Mahal. It's going to look like the Trump Tower in Vegas, I think. Anyway, your thoughts on that comment. Oh, by the way, all the platforms, if you're new, all the platforms have ability to comment, and we see those here in the production studio, and producer Chad put some of those up on the screen. But love to hear from you. Which presidential library have you been to? Which one did you want to go to? And where is Trump's going to see? Trump is in great health right now, but we all know, health can change on a dime, and we pray that he stays in great health. I would not be surprised if Donald Trump, well, I'm not. I know he has. He's already worked on the thoughts of the library, and I know he's busy right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's already a plan. And I'm seriously would not be surprised if that thing is is halfway done before he gets out of office in 4 years, so that he's not too old to enjoy the celebration, the ribbon cutting there. All right, the 19th, and we've got Steve Laffey coming up here in just a minute, and I'll dive into that, and he's got a lot of topics to get to. Construction. Obama's millions of dollars over in construction on his library. These people are incompetent. You just look at how we've been mismanaged the last few years, and Republicans were complicit in that by allowing some of the spending to get out of control and not being on regular order. But millions of dollars, we talk about what goes foreign, goes overseas, but millions of dollars get spent not just by states, but by the federal government, hoping to have these idealistic views of we're going to have green energy and we're going to have electric car charging stations. And most of you probably are not in the state of California right now. And we've all heard this tale of this California light rail, this choo-choo train, that they want to build a high-speed train from Northern California to Southern California. And it's going to be so good for the environment. Unfortunately, they've been working on it for 17 years. It's become a never-ending sinkhole of money, of taxpayer money, that's pretty much like the Obama library, mismanaged. And to illustrate this is why you have to be very careful about, again, just look at the proof in the pudding. It's not about me. I'm not a card-carrying member of the Republican Party. I vote Republican. I was an independent for a while. I think I'm registered Republican still. But I don't know. It doesn't matter to me because it's just not that matter. So Rich says, sorry, the Truman Library is actually Independence, Missouri. It's all the city avoid if we can. So yeah, Independence, Missouri. That's why it's Kansas City. That threw me off there. Eisenhower's is in Kansas. I think it's Abilene, Kansas, or somewhere like that. It's in the middle of nowhere. And I don't know if it's the homestead or the library or whatever. Somebody in Kansas can help us with that. So back to this construction thing. You watch the management of America has happened. You watch Obama, who can't even manage the building of his own shrine, his own altar. The narcissist Obama is so incompetent and so focused on DEI that his narcissism can't overcome his dedication to diversity, equity, inclusion. Forget the outcome. Forget what could be happening, and forget the results of it. It's just about all DEI. Watch this little video here, and this is just a reminder that if you're surprised by Obama's incompetence, remember Gavin Newsom wants to be the president. And for 17 years, he's been bilking the federales and he's been bilking everybody about high-speed rail and high-speed trains in California, and they haven't come to fruition, and nobody knows when they're going to be done. Watch this, and remember, this man's level of mismanagement is as bad as Obama's is now. This man wants to be president. 2009. Still building it. Oh, they got a massive on there. That's important. 2022. We're still going to build it. High-speed rail. We're going to build it. It's never going to get it. Maybe get built there, but this is the problem. If you continue to fund these programs and you don't have quality in DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion of the environment or Green New Deal, if that's your driving cause rather than let's get it done quick and efficiently, then you can have things like DEI, or excuse me, you can have things like USAID doling out money. And as you dole out money, you're going to just continue to be able to pay contractors, and contractors that thought they were contracting for 5 years end up 17 years later. They're still getting paid for a project that's not going to get done because the project can't get done because of DEI or Green New Deal, Green New Energy, or worship of the environment or whatever. So, but it is amazing just the proof of the pudding that even narcissism, the narcissism of Barry Hussein Obama cannot overcome the fact that he's got to be hell-bent on worshiping at the altar of DEI. And it's a fascinating story. If you haven't seen it, I think it's up on my Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page, Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. We've been caught in such a blur in drinking from the fire hose, as they say, with Donald Trump and executive orders and court cases. I haven't mentioned much about the war in Ukraine, but I have a question to ask you. Besides by the way, some of you jumping in with some of your great comments on presidential libraries as we talk about Barack Obama's presidential library. I see, I'm just going to read, I don't know which of these have popped on the screen, but I'll just go. Eisenhower Museum in Abilene was recently updated, and I need to go back to see it. That's right, Abilene, Kansas. Pretty good, huh? I've been by Abilene, but I never could stop. I see Rich, again, some of these might have already gone up. I'm behind. Sorry, Truman Library is actually independent. Okay, we did that when Reagan and Eisenhower, excellent. So, yeah, which libraries have you been to? Which ones do you still want to go to? Anybody? I thought it was kind of strange on the George W. Bush one. It was interesting seeing some of the rubble from the World Trade Center. That was interesting. George W., they actually have a life-size replica of the Oval Office, which is kind of really cool because you see the Oval Office, but very few people ever get to go in the Oval Office. And at Reagan, of course, one of the most memorable there is they have the actual Air Force One that he flew on, and it's mounted there, and you can walk through. And still to this day, they say with all the outdated technology in that thing that don't take photos. And you look at that little plane, and you can see like the little plane when he flew to Reykjavik or wherever he was flying to Iceland for peace summits with Gorbachev. There's a little place he took a nap. I mean, it's right there. It's very small as opposed to the big monsters that they have now. This was the last generation of a smaller Air Force One, and it's just cool to see. And they want no photos to see any of the technology in there, but you figure the technology is out of date. But okay, you don't take photos, but you do. It is a gimmick. You can stand at the stairs and wave like you're the president, and you do that. And I have photos somewhere around here of my son and I standing at the top of the thing. He's about 15, 14. We're waving as if we're coming off the plane like Donald Trump and Barron. And that was just a nice photo. I should frame it. It's just sitting around somewhere. Anyway, it's just the Ukraine war. Back to the topic at hand. The Ukraine war. We have the story that there's peace talks now underway, in which we are maybe going to end the Ukraine war. I have the story. Trump says the meeting with Putin's happening very soon. Zelensky's in on the loop. Everybody tried to have a ruckus that Zelensky wasn't going to get to have a seat at the table. Trump says, yes, everybody's got a seat at the table. So they're moving forward on peace talks. And it made me think as they're talking about it, we're less than tomorrow will make 30 days since the inauguration of the president, 30-ish days, 1 month since the president was inaugurated, January the 20th. Tomorrow's February the 20th. And I started to think of all this news and the fire hydrant we're drinking from and all of this just craziness that just you can't keep up. And the news cycle is just going 24 hours. And there's been reporters saying, man, we used to get to sleep until 10 and be home by 2, but now we're working nonstop to keep up. There's another press conference. There's going to be there's all this activity happening. And so we now just throw out this topic that there's going to be peace talks on Ukraine and Russia. Okay. That's good. What's that, 3 or 4 years ago? Almost 3 years ago? Can anybody name one time or one thing that Joseph Robinette Biden did to bring about an end to the war in Ukraine? I know that he sent Tony Blinken over there, but does anybody know what the U.S. stance on that was? I mean, really sort of think about that now you've got the parties going to actually sit down, not talk about it, not President Trump making strong statements. He's talked to Zelensky, he's talked to Putin and said, hey, can we all three get together and let's hash this thing out and we'll have some envoys and let's work this thing out. And both of them have agreed to do it. But for 3 years, the only thing I can remember, maybe I'm missing something, that Joseph Robinette Biden could do was talk about we have to send more arms to Ukraine. Did Joseph Biden, did Demented Poopy Pants Joe do anything out there to end the war in Ukraine, other than some talk and some lip service and sending Tony Blinken over there, and other than going to Congress to ask for billions and billions of dollars that we have to give to the Ukrainian government? Think of this: we're 3.5 weeks into the Trump presidency, and past the Biden presidency, and you finally have, within a couple of weeks, you have a couple of phone calls made, and you've got the leaders of both countries ready to come together, and they're going to negotiate some kind of settlement. Think of all the needless lives that were lost. Think of all the billions of dollars that were spent by America because, again, think of this. Again, you don't have to like the Trumpster. You can love him. You can hate him. I don't care. But you think the last 3 years of his administration, you cannot. Did he ever pick up the phone and call Putin and say, hey, Putin, we have to end this thing? The point is, not only was he's incompetent, he was disrespected, and America was disrespected. Again, I don't know what the settlement's going to be. I really don't give a rat's patootie. I hope they end the thing. It's needless lives, and too much American money has gone over there. But just think of this thing: that did they do anything in the last 3 years other than tell us we have to support Ukraine, we have to send them money, and Congress would debate it. We'd send them a few more billions of dollars, and we yelled at Europe, you need to send them more money. But other than squawking about giving money to Ukraine and a few futile trips by the dumb Secretary of State that we had, Tony Blinken, was there any effort to end that war? There wasn't. If you think, not that I know of, not that I ever read a headline of, and yet you have Trumpster comes in within a couple of weeks. He's got Zelensky and Putin and their envoys ready to sit down. Again, I don't know what the end's going to be. I think they'll end it. I think both sides want to end it. But the fact is, rather than even saying we're going to end it, well, you can almost say we exacerbated made it worse and made it go longer because our focus was not ending the war. Our focus was helping Ukraine, and you can help Ukraine, whatever you feel about that. But America gets into the mix here, and when you're a strong country and you walk softly but carry a big stick, you tell people stop it and knock it off, and they say yes sir, we'll come to the table. And anyway, I thought that's interesting. Ponder that through in your head, that it's kind of got lost in the news cycle that we have all this other stuff making news, DOGE and things like that. And but it's just fascinating to think that I cannot think of any position that Joe Biden took or stated or negotiated that brought about a closure or towards a closure of that war in Ukraine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you here. I do want to remind you on this show that we take on advertisers, and one of our great advertisers is Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. Whether you're in the northern Colorado area, all the way down the I-25 corridor, homeswithsherry.com. Sherry Cree is a great friend, and she's just a fantastic detailed level real estate agent. It's not just about the transaction. It's about the experience. It's about the overall. I mean, maybe your first time home buyer. She wants to impress you so much and get you in such a great position with just the strategy she uses that all of a sudden you want to upgrade, you want to have a second home. You say, we got to call Sherry. She wants to be your realtor for life. She's working towards that goal to be your realtor for life. And so she'll sit down and have a consultation with you. She has figured out in her life how that real estate can be a part of generational wealth. It's not just buying the right house at the right time with the right number of bedrooms and car garages. It's what is the long-term strategy for real estate? Real estate can create generational wealth for you. It can be something that is a blessing not just to you, but to future generations if you do it right. So talk to Sherry. It's a free consultation and conversation. Sherry Cree. Her website, you'll find it at homeswithsherry.com. Some people start thinking about the kids and they want to sell or buy around the summertime so that they can figure out the school districts and where kids want to be at. Listen, now's the time to start that consultation, start the conversation. Doesn't mean you're going to have a sign in your yard tomorrow, but it does mean you can at least start to have a blueprint and a road plan, and let Sherry walk you through the whole process. homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her and make sure you tell her, hey, I watch Lakey, I listen to Lakey, and I trust who he recommends. And so have that conversation. It's free. It's a free conversation and a consultation, and she'll just take the time. And by the way, if you read the Ninja Sales Tactic books and how to be a good seller, you got to practice these. If you're familiar with that, she's really a ninja seller. She really has, she's mastered the art. And my friends, I think you'll be very, very happy that I told you about her. homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. All right, let's dive into my first guest of the morning. He's with us every Wednesday morning. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise and all the connections work. He sometimes ticks some of you off, which I kind of enjoy, and he does it so naturally. It's Steve Laffey, stevelaffey.com. How are you, sir?
Jimmy, great show. Good to be with you, as always, on a very cold day, but we don't care.
It is cold. It is cold, but, yesterday was so dreary. I was telling everybody earlier, it was so dreary here in Colorado. And we usually are pretty sunny here, but today, looking out, it's much better. I like it. So I like the sunshine. Steve Laffey, we're drinking from a fire hydrant. There's so much news and information that's out there. It's just crazy. What's the one news story this week that's really caught your attention? Because sometimes we're all reading the headlines on page 1, and sometimes you're on the Wall Street Journal page 23J, and you see something that says this should be the top story, not the bottom story. Is there one of those out there that's kind of caught your attention that isn't about Elon Musk and Donald Trump and DOGE?
That's funny to say. Well, I mean, there is so many, and I've got all these papers around now that you ask me, like, what is the thing that I really, was going to talk about? Well, it really does go back to, I mean, you were just talking about something extraordinarily important. And to give Donald Trump credit, he's here to clean up a mess, lots of messes. There's so many messes, it's not even funny. The one that has to do with Ukraine and Europe, I agreed with Trump in 2015 when he said it, in 2016 and 2017. He didn't do much about it, but he got NATO to put more money in. Just so people know, America supplies at least 75% of the money to NATO, even though we're one country, we're the biggest country, et cetera, et cetera. There's 30 some odd people. So if you back up even farther, it was George Bush who sat at the Olympics with Vladimir Putin, and Putin invaded Georgia, the country of Georgia, not the state for some of the people under 30 who won't even know what we're talking about, the country of Georgia, right? And that started this whole thing of Putin pushing back. There were other things that he did. Under Obama, there was no penalty paid for on a hot mic for Obama to tell the president of Russia, not Putin, hey, when I get reelected, I have a lot more leniency, a lot more be able to move around and maneuver. No one penalized Obama because the media loved Obama. When Trump came in, they had already taken Crimea. So here he is. They didn't do much. Now, Putin plays a long game. China plays a long game. They can hang out for years and years. We in America can't. We have 2-year elections for House of Representatives, right? So fast forward, he did some things with NATO, but he really didn't do enough. He ran up giant deficits, which were bad. He didn't do anything about the deficit, et cetera, et cetera. And then what happened was he lost the election because the PPP program, and he didn't do much about, the trade stuff. Now he's back, right? So let's go fast forward. So now you didn't say it the way I would exactly say it. Biden could have easily won the war with the coalition of the willing. He could have stopped the war, as I said the day before the invasion, by ordering attacking Belarus with NATO or green people or people who just would lend some planes. The war would have not have started. But for Trump to say yesterday that Ukraine started the war is simply wrong, and he's going about it in the wrong way. If I were him, he would get much more traction by bringing in NATO and saying, listen, we're effectively not doing this anymore. I made a mistake in my first 4 years. I'll never say I made a mistake. But saying that, listen, only Poland was listening. Only Estonia was actually listening. They're at 3% of GDP. I have a plan that you're going to go to 5% over 5 years in defense, and we're going to supply a lot of it to you. It's not transactional, but we have the military to do so. And therefore, we're actually not going to have these problems anymore. But he's not doing that. In other words, the haphazard way of going about it, and yesterday saying, and I have the quote, we can read it. I said it to you. I wrote it all down. For Trump to say something like, quote, I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going well. First of all, it's not going well. But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there 3 years. He's referring to Ukraine. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never have started it. You could have made a deal. He could have thrown it back on Biden. Really, Biden could have made a deal, right? Ukraine is really powerless, except for the fact that they're tough as nails, have invented a new way to fight, have developed drone fighting that everybody's looking at, really important stuff that's going to be going on for years and years in the world. He could have thrown it back on Biden. He threw it at Zelensky, and the reason is, again, back to this one point, he suffers from narcissism. So Zelensky wasn't bowing down about what was happening with Russia. So now he's after Zelensky. The only good point is that he'll just keep changing his mind, But Ukraine and now people in the UK, so for example, the UK can't really fight a war. They used to be the world superpower. They have 80,000 troops. But NATO by itself, without the US, has 1.5 million troops, more than Russia. So NATO today, if I was running NATO, would be like, fine, Mr. President, why don't you just tell us you're not funding anymore? You don't have to come in and say we're taking your rare earth minerals, which, Jimmy, nobody's going to get to the rare earth minerals for, I don't know, 50 years. They're close to Russia. They're not like in the middle of Kiev.
Yeah.
The thing is preposterous. And then it gets to the preposterous nature of the new U.S. Secretary of Treasury, who's actually goes to Ukraine, who's actually engaging. He's going to have a big enough problem rolling $17 trillion of debt. He shouldn't be involved in any of this stuff. And he has a quote where he's calling what Trump is doing masterful, right? I wrote it all down. An elegant plan regarding Ukraine, that they're going to have a long-term partnership that's the opposite of China, that goes in and does things with countries. This is so off the rails to help America that I don't even know how to function and talk about it in a way. It's not productive for America's national interest. It would be productive to say, listen, I'm not going to say this myself. We're leaving NATO in 5 years. Here's the transition you need. You could do that.
Yep.
Right? I mean, by themselves, the Finns and the Swedes can close the Baltic. They're tough. They joined NATO. By themselves, the other people could actually, with Poland's help, go right through to the Sea of Azov, right to the lake they need to cut off Russia. They could take out the bridge that connects Russia to Ukraine. They could do that today. Russia's not going to do anything. Russia, like in many ways, like Iran, are back on their heels. They've used over 50% of their tanks, and the ones that are left, Jimmy, are ones that were built in 1947.
The old ones.
So we can win and defeat Russia, but that would be a better plan. But Trump's plan isn't really a plan. It's a back and forth. You know, for example, 25% import tariffs now are coming. They're probably not coming on Porsche cars, on pharmaceuticals, on stuff that he just makes up, right? From Europe. I don't know. How is that helpful? Because it's changed 4 times since we've talked. That's not helpful for American companies.
Yep. If you're just listening to the audio portion, that's Steve Laffey, his website, stevelaffey.com. Steve, I want to ask you the question of the day, which is presidential libraries. You sent me one about the JFK library reopened, suddenly closed, now it's reopened. We'll talk about that. But libraries you've been to, but I want to see if you saw this, and I tried to play this audio yesterday. This is the chairman of the Munich conference last week, is a German, and I'll play a snippet of him. I think the sound will work. It didn't work yesterday.
Of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
He starts to cry.
I didn't see that. Okay.
It's clap because he's crying. And he was crying, Steve. Well, I don't know if you heard the remarks by J.D. Vance. So he was crying because J.D. Vance said, "Hey, you have censorship, and we've been a part of it too, and we need to have free speech, and you should have free speech." And he even said, "Hey, we had examples in the previous administration of shutting people down. We don't need to do that." The guy in Germany says we don't have shared values anymore because they want free speech. Yeah. Give me your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on J.D. Vance is, no, I wouldn't have picked that topic if I went over. I would have picked NATO and defense spending and kept it on that. But J.D. Vance is entirely correct that the Germans and that many members of the EU have limited free speech and they're doing it wrong, and we don't like it. And we did it too when we closed the country down in 2020.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't like it. That's why we had shows where I said, I just walked into Aceware and told them to stick it. Yeah. You know, I wasn't wearing, remember, we had shows where I'm like, as a guy who wasn't elected and wasn't the governor of Colorado, I did things I could do and told people to stick it all the time, wherever I was, right?
I just find it, okay, we're not against free speech, but when you have free speech, it makes me cry. I'm like, really?
No, but that guy's a complete clown. He summarizes Germany destroying themselves. That guy doesn't understand anything about freedom, that Germany is losing by letting too many illegal aliens themselves who are violent. The Afghan guy who just took down 29 people in Germany goes on over and over again. The rapes that happened in Sweden, the Islamic people who came in who never should have been allowed to come in. have destroyed these countries. I told you my trip to London. I can't go back anymore. I went and I didn't spend any time in London. I went out to Cambridge. London's taken over. There were 300,000 pro-Palestinian marching when I was there. There were people being arrested for protesting the protest, even though they shouldn't have been arrested. They were. So this guy shows up. I'm glad you played the tape. Everything that's wrong in Europe. And this is why Trump is right about them getting their act together on defending themselves, right? Germany doesn't have to talk about Hitler anymore and feel, oh my gosh, Japan needs a national defense. This is a long time ago. It's 3 generations ago. But for that guy to get up there and cry means that symbolizes everything that's going wrong in Germany, which was an industrial power, which is now Volkswagen's closing plants and saying to China, why don't you operate these plants, lease them from us, because our unions are so strong, we can't make any money making cars. Wow. That's how bad it is in Germany, Jimmy. They stink. Why can't they get their act together? They're actually very smart, well-educated. They got to kick people out of the country who have destroyed their country and get back to having children. And get some coal plants operating again. Reignite their nuclear plants that they've closed.
Yeah. See, all the things you're talking about are things they should be doing. But I played this yesterday, and my listeners can go back and watch it. A 60-minute clip on Sunday that it's actually illegal to insult someone, and you can end up insults. I mean, so again, this is the problem. They start focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion. Don't offend anybody, and the rest of the country is going to hell in a handbasket. And hopefully, they figure it out soon, because and then CBS this week saying, isn't free speech dangerous because free speech caused a genocide in Germany? And you're like, even in America, we have no clue about history.
It was a lack of free speech in Germany. This is the thing about CBS, and that's why these legacy people, I think JD Vance is actually, they have to kind of go away. Like we shouldn't even use them as sources. Once in a while, I take a photo of something and send it to you or somebody, but NBC, ABC, CB, they're not sources anymore.
Yeah. I joked and said, I don't think Fox would operate half the day. They could work about 12 hours a day if they weren't playing clips from The View and CBS and MSNBC.
They're not news sources.
You're
a news source. I actually am a news source. Like, I have data. I have statistics. I'm a news source. I go on some other national channels, and I'm a news source. CBS isn't. They're just playing they have videos where they're cutting out Trump on clips and do it on purpose. But back to the haphazard nation of allowing the JFK library to close and then reopen, again, is haphazard. It's not helpful.
I'm not aware of the backstory. What happened with the
because
closure?
They fired so many people last week. The JFK library didn't have any people, I guess. They closed, and now they're reopening. So for Trump to listen to this, it's not the conservatives who maybe don't want to go to the JFK library, although JFK was a very conservative guy, pro-life, right? War hero, real war hero, right? Cut taxes, et cetera, et cetera. That's not even the purpose. The purpose is there's too many things going back and forth. And this, for people listening, someone find Trump, this hurts him in the long run. It kind of hurts him in the short run, because then people say, well, does he really know what he's doing? And it plays into this thing that he's old. Now, I don't think he's lost a step. Maybe everybody's lost a step by 89 or 79, but it's going to play into this thing over the next 6 months. So to make the closure and reopening of JFK as important as like getting rid, doing something about the IRS, which again is haphazard. It'd be better to propose a law to get rid of the IRS and have a flat tax and a fair tax or something, right? And get that passed so we can collect a lot more revenue and not deal with these stupid people at the IRS and then close the buildings. But they're not doing that. They're just doing stuff that's not working right now.
Do you have a favorite? Have you been to many presidential libraries, and which one did you enjoy and or not enjoy?
I loved it. I've been to JFK Library at Rhode Island 20 times. So maybe that's my favorite because I've been to. But if you get a chance to go to the Truman Library in Kansas,
Independence, Missouri.
Yes, I'm sorry, in Missouri. It's right. I went to the Kansas City Royals game and I went there. So when you go there, it's an old-fashioned kind of thing. But you read where Truman, and you see where Truman had an office and how he entertained Japanese visitors, and you see the clips that they're far long ago, but like there's one clip where the railroad union is going to strike. And there's a clip where Truman says, well, I guess we could put the railroad people into the military and then we wouldn't have and then the next clip is like, I guess we're not having a strike. So Truman's library, and you learn about how people loved Truman after he left office. They were taking apart his house piece by piece. Me and you, people like me and you, we'd go up and take a piece of his home. So they had to put a fence up. That's really still my favorite that I've been to, I think. Mostly because Truman, I learned much more about him with these clips than I did, probably because I didn't know as much. I know a lot about JFK from growing up in Rhode Island and being a Roman Catholic growing up. You know a lot about JFK. But I've been to many of them. The saddest one is Jimmy Carter, because he stunk.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing about about the library is that everybody there is still sad because they don't have a lot of great things to say.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Carter as a governor was great. Jimmy Carter, the war guy, was great. Jimmy Carter TV ads were great. Workfare. Everybody had to work. But it's a sad library that I wouldn't go to again.
And you probably heard me talking about it. I'll let you go here. The Obama, he was so worried about DEI and things that being sued. They're millions of dollars over budget. He's the longest in history, modern history. Has been over almost 3,000 days since he left office. It's still a year or so away. May never open. Never let a liberal run a building program.
Right, and that sums it up, doesn't it? Obama running his own presidential library means it may never open because he sucks so bad at running things. Yeah. It took Biden to say there was someone worse because Biden was his vice president. They can't run anything. They just it's beyond really belief that and that's Obama, right? He's just a selfish person himself and doesn't care about black people, in my opinion, doesn't care about the country. His wife clearly never cared about the country. Remember the quotes that should have been disqualifying. But again, we live in a time where nothing's disqualifying.
Steve Laffey, always a pleasure, sir. SteveLaffey.com. SteveLaffey.com.
And I got to get to Reagan's. Anyway, I haven't read that one.
Reagan's is fantastic.
I know.
It's fantastic. And every time I go, they change the displays. I appreciate you, Steve. SteveLaffey.com. SteveLaffey.com. They change up the displays there all the time. So when I went there, my son got fascinated, and I'm walking ahead, and I'm like, where's he at? He's 14 years old behind me somewhere reading something about Reagan playing college football or high school football. So that was his passion at the time. But I didn't see that the first time. So I guess they have rotating displays of these things. I've never been to Kennedy's. The Truman one is intriguing. And Independence, Missouri. Eisenhower, I think, is Eisenhower a museum and library, or is it just kind of a museum? The LBJ one I had been to, it was more of there was a museum part of it, but it's not like these big ones they have today. By the way, somebody messaged me and said, I didn't know that. I thought presidential libraries were funded by presidents, and why would the DOGE cuts affect the operation of the Kennedy Library? I looked this up while Steve was talking because someone sent me the message. They build the edifice themselves. They build the shrines. They build it all themselves, and it's their property. Like Reagan and Nancy are buried right outside the back doors of the library. You can go pay respect at Reagan's grave. It's right there on their property, right? So they own it. But the libraries themselves are staffed by federal employees. These employees are the libraries are operated by the National Archives and Record Administration, which provides federal funding for building maintenance and part of the personnel cost. However, many libraries also rely on private donations and admission fees. So there is a contingency of federal workers, and evidently the JFK library did not, maybe because it's so many years past the death of JFK, that people were not donating, and so they were relying heavily on the federal workers to be there. But a lot of them are staffed by kind of their own enterprise. It's kind of a private thing. All right, good to have you here on the show. Nice to be here. Jimmy Lakey is my name. And again, if you would like to, by the way, a new Patreon page dropped last night. And this is behind the paywall, and it's an interview with Mary Graber, Dr. Mary Graber. And if you talk about history and JFK and old presidents, you got to watch it. It's there's a 2-minute or so preview that's out there. You can watch it, just a preview. 7-day free trial, $9.95 a month. And this is behind the paywall, but it is the debunking the myths of everything you've heard about FDR, everything you thought you knew about FDR. I walked away as a student in history. The undergrad work was in the history, American history, and I learned a lot. I just FDR. there's so many narratives that were given about FDR and the New Deal and all the stuff that he did, but him as an individual, him as a person, his relationship with the other part of the Roosevelt family, which would be his cousin Teddy Roosevelt, who was president before. Were they close? Were they not? Anyway, it's an interesting interview with Dr. Mary Graber. It dropped last night on the Patreon page, and if you don't subscribe to the Patreon page, you should. It's one way you can support and keep the daily update free. Subscribe to it. It's only $9.95 a month. There's several, 1 to 2, sometimes 3. The interviews just come out at kind of random times. I got another one that's ready to drop this week about Christianity and kind of the problem with our cultural Christianity. That's going to drop on the paywall this week. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, $9.95. Go subscribe. It's a way to support the program, and I appreciate it if you do that. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Speaking of content, producer Chad and I work on another project. It's called the Critical Mission Podcast. And many of you who followed me years on radio knew that we launched that about a year ago, or less than a year ago. And the 2 most important days of a person's life: the day they're born, the day they figure out why. And no one knows where that came from. Mark Twain did not say that. It just somehow became part of our vernacular. And I used my own life and said, I found out why I was born, not to sit behind a microphone and yap at you people, but to take care of widows and orphans and children in Africa through our charity Rivers Promise, which is pictured behind me. So we do a podcast. Producer Chad and I, we launched it several months ago, and I want to start highlighting some of them because some of you, it's free. By the way, it's free. You just got to go subscribe. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on iHeart Podcast. Just type in my name, Jimmy Lakey. It's called the Critical Mission Podcast. Our website, My Mission is Critical, or and subscribe to it. And that way, every time they drop, you will get a notification. But some of you are behind, and you can catch up. And they're good listening, and they're also on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel if you want to see it. But it's a really a true podcast, so you can hear it. And it's just interviews that I've done. Evan Todd was the first one, survivor of Columbine, and how that changed his life, and just a lot of variety of topics. The one from Duke Romney, we played, I think, a snippet of last week. It's called "I Woke Up in a Mexican Jail." That's a funny story and yet crazy. So listen, let me play this. Let's play this snippet. This is, let me go back here and double check which one. I'm sorry, producer Chad, hold tight just a second here. This is Jason Harrington. And Oz. We have Oz. Okay, we got Oz. Let's do the Oz one, I guess. I don't know which one. I'm sorry, I'm reading messages late. Oz talking about the State Department. Oz, Mark Oz Geis from the Benghazi story. We interviewed him and how that moment in Benghazi, September the 11th, changed his life, and the failures of Hillary Clinton and the lack of help from the State Department. And so this is the Critical Mission Podcast. This is one that you can go back and watch it all free. Again, I got the expensive stuff, the Patreon page, the paid stuff, but this is free content as well. It's not about politics. It's about purpose. Roll the tape. Mark Osgeist. It's on available right now. You can go watch it.
Folks have heard the story, seen the movie, which depicts a lot of the situation at Benghazi, but you're up on the rooftop. You're trying to get help from the U.S. military. You're calling, please send in reinforcements, and walk us through what happened or what didn't happen with that request.
Well, I know Tonto, I believe, he had said that he had asked before they even left the consulate, once the attack had started, they had asked for any type of air cover they could. See, I think he specifically asked for a Spectre gunship. We're in the Mediterranean. We knew where assets were. We know what is available. And ultimately, the only thing they ever sent was a drone. And they told us that, the drone, well, they didn't tell us then. After the fact, they told us that the drone wasn't armed, so it couldn't do anything. Which I really find hard to believe during that time that we have a drone anywhere in the world that's not armed.
Why were they, though, hesitant to actually send the help that had been requested? What was the fear of supporting you guys on the ground?
The politicians back in D.C. or somewhere were looking at things, and initially I think they were sending people, and this is what I've heard since, is that there was an airplane full of Marines above Benghazi at 1:30 in the morning, and they got turned around. I know there was other assets that were trying to get to us, and things prevented them from that. And I don't think it was really nefarious. I think it was more of piss poor leadership and people not just giving us what we needed on the ground and let us decide how to take care of business.
So that's mymissioniscritical.com, and or just look up Jimmy Lakey on all the platforms out there, and you will see this is free. Again, I'm giving you too much free stuff, but you need to go subscribe to the Patreon stuff, if you will. That becomes a problem. We become consumers of the free stuff, but we appreciate. We appreciate you getting the paid stuff as well. Also, if you want to help us keep it free, don't forget, if you're a business owner or a philanthropist and you want to help build the media empire that we're working on building, empire, info at jimmylakey.com, info at jimmylakey.com, and that helps us keep things going. I got the FDR stuff out there, the Benghazi stuff. Some of you pay for, some of you don't, but it's all out there, and I hope that you will participate in it accordingly as we try to provide content, not just about politics, but about purpose. And that's what the critical mission is. All right, back to some news here. I want you to see this. There's a story, and we've got Doug Giles coming up. Some of you big Doug Giles fans. He's coming up here in just a moment. There is a story that I think I did it, and I need to pull the audio and do it tomorrow, that the former big fundraiser for Kamala Harris says behind the scenes that the Democrats are in shambles. They're angry with each other. They know they failed. She says woke is their god, and she says, I've been able to raise millions and millions of dollars through fundraisers and through connections, and she says I'm going to bring that prowess over to the Republicans now because I'm tired. Kamala's worn me out. The Democrats have worn me out. It's an interesting piece, and I think it's up there at Fox News. But I want you to listen to this one. This is when the Democrats are in such disarray. This is CNBC, a program they have called the Squawk Box. And I want you to watch this video. This is another tech guy. This is the CEO of the tech world. And remember, you have now, whether you believe it or not, well, you had Elon Musk, who said last night he was going to endorse Trump anyway. You've got all these guys kind of jumping into the Trump world, the tech guys realizing that, hey, the Democrats have really screwed this up. Here's another tech guy who's a Democrat, and he's going to start commenting on Marco Rubio, and then he's going to come back and talk about the overall view of the Democrat Party. Alex Karp as a guest on Squawk Box.
The goal of today's meeting was to follow up on the phone call the president had a week ago and begin to establish those lines of communication. The work remains. Today is the first step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one, and President Trump is committed to bringing an end to this conflict.
We are trying to bring an end to the conflict. Apparently, we're also asking for something on the order of $500 billion?
Okay, watch this response. It's about to happen.
Minerals and other things from Ukraine. Is that a fair deal?
Look, I don't know anything about the deal and the intricacies of it. What I would say is, first of all, you put up people on the screen who are very talented. So if I look at this from an entrepreneurial perspective, the first thing I'm looking at is, okay, those three people are very talented. The second thing, I'll tell you something I think Trump does very, very well. He says, I'm not going to accept a paradigm that essentially leads to a stupid conclusion. And he's like, okay, great. I'm going to give you a new paradigm. You don't like that, my paradigm? Give me another one. And I think I think he's quite brilliant at this. So what I see is he's like, I'm not accepting a paradigm where America just keeps financing things. There's no real discussion. I'm sending three of the most talented people there. Let's figure it out. And again, what I would say to people who are trying to figure out how to make themselves, how to be builders is, do not accept a paradigm that is stupid, no matter who tells you that you should have it.
Okay, let me ask you a different question about paradigm shifting. So one of the things that's going on right now, Elon Musk working with the DOGE team in Washington to try to get at some of the misspending that's been going on over the years.
Fraud, waste, and abuse.
And I think there's a lot of people who are super supportive of that. At the same time, you're hearing about resignations and all sorts of other things of folks who are questioning the access that they're getting to data. You are somebody who lives within data. You care about safety and security of data. Do you think we should have those concerns? And is there a way to do whatever's being done right now so that you can take the country and those who are questioning all of this with you,
well,
if you will?
What I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, What the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes?
Let me jump out there. You just hear he rambled a little bit, but I wanted you to hear this was on CNBC, and he says that I've always been a Democrat, but these guys are basically the same thing. They're crazy. They've gone bat crap crazy, and unfortunately, fortunately maybe for us, they still have Nancy Pelosi and they still have Bernie Sanders out there flailing their arms around in a circle and pretending as if they. Pretending as if they're the leaders of the party. Anyway, fascinating, really funny stuff, I believe, that you hear there. Alex Karp, again, the tech guy, and this is why the Democrats are freaked out. The tech guy, the Silicon Valley guys are kind of going, you know what, I've been with you guys a long time. Elon's kind of like that. And you guys are nuts, man. You guys are bat crap crazy. And there's another tech guy that it looks like has drawn the same conclusion. And he says that Democrats, in his words, I heard he rambled a bit, have committed the suicided themselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring into the program one of our favorites here. It's my brother from a different mother. His name is Doug Giles. His website, douggiles.net, douggiles.net. And Brother Doug, welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to the House of Lakey. Glory to God.
Jimmy, how you doing, big dog?
I'm doing very well, very, very well. You were fishing, then you were under the weather, and here you are again.
You know, it's, and I know this is not cold where you hail from, but it's freaking, the wind chill is 4 degrees. I looked at my wind chill. Yeah, I looked at my weather app where my daughter lives, where we used to live in Aventura, Florida, Dade County, Miami, 77 degrees right now. What is wrong with me, buddy?
I've been contemplating that now that I'm kind of an empty nester. My son's off to college. I'm like, I know he likes to come home to his childhood bedroom, but I could live on a beach somewhere. Why am I here in the cold? I'll build him a replica of his bedroom somewhere else and say, it's just like your childhood bedroom, like a museum or something. It'd be great. All right. Doug Giles jumping in here. We've talked a lot about DOGE, and you sent me a great article. I haven't had a chance to go through it. I've just skimmed it. It's at douggiles.net. It's DOCE, D-O-C-E, the Department of Church Efficiency. And this, people don't know, you have a ministry, Clash Ministries, and you're a spreader of the word of God. And I think it's an interesting article from what I've been able to scan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that, God's afoot, he's going to do something, he's going to revive a nation, bring a reformation, whatever. I mean, you look at the coming of Christ. He sent John the Baptist, who's a freaking wood chipper on steroids, as the prelude to the most main event in human history. There's always going to be a DOGE. There's always going to be an axe to the root. There's always going to be pulling up roots and stumps and all kinds of ecclesiastical garbage. Or as we're seeing, mismanagement of trillions of dollars in our taxpayer funds. So I was thinking, as Elon is going through these agencies and these insane expenditures, maybe we should do it, Jimmy. Maybe we should do it in regards to the church. I think the church should get rid of politically correct and woke pastors who fear men more than God. That would be a good start. You see these little tinker pots like, oh, I don't want to say anything political. It's, the Bible's not political. Well, then somebody explain to me 1st and 2nd Kings, because it's talking about kings. It's talking about rulers, and it's talking about, those who ruled righteously and those who ruled unrighteously. So I think the politically correct and the woke little wussy pastors, they need to go the way of, I don't know, the Edsel or something like that. I think also, Jimmy, effeminate skinny jean worship leaders whose hair puts the gel in evangelical, yeah, they can go also. Also, Jimmy, there's a church, man. I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but there's a church down the road. I won't say what denomination, but the pastor pushed the jab. He inhaled deeply little Lord Fauci's dope smoke. He pushed the jab to his congregants. He brought a frickin' Vax truck and parked it by their big old front doors. Glory to God. And I think we should dose them. I think we should get rid of them too. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's a church that I pass on the way to one of my favorite cigar lounges, and it sits back, and I don't know what denomination it is, but I've never seen a sign out front about Jesus, but I've seen one that says a rainbow flag that says everyone welcome. I've seen one that says Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, it's funny, of all the advertising they put out there, I've never seen a damn thing about Jesus out there.
Yeah.
Like a different gospel, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably a place where that little mannish, I thought the chick was a dude, the one that, rebuked Trump at the national, whatever hell they call that thing. It's definitely not a church. It's a synagogue of Satan. Is who would say that? Oh, Jesus would say that. And I bet she'd feel real comfortable going, and lecturing at that kind of church. I think we ought to dose them. I think pastors who embraced open borders and a little cultural Marxism, dose. What about pastors who imitate Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy, instead of John the Baptist? Dose them. I think we ought to scrap them. I mean, if Trump's cleaning house and Elon's cleaning house, then maybe the church should start cleaning house. What about Christian magazines, Jimmy? I don't know if you saw this crap. Christian magazines, Christianity Today to be specific, and Russell Moore, given, I think it's $8 million. What did they do with that $8 million, James? Well, they crapped on Trump and us Paul Rubes who dwell in the flyover states. Yeah, I think they should get dosed.
I did an interview with, it's on my, it's going to be on my Patreon page. It's behind a paywall, but now I'll get some clips of it out. It's a guy who wrote a book, and it's about modern cultural Christianity and how it's wrong. Is kind of similar to these themes. Dr. James West, I believe is his name. And his publisher was trying to buy ads in Christianity Today, and they rejected the money for his ads and said his book was too controversial. And yet Christianity Today also was running ads for books for people that were never Trumpers and how Trump's not, evangelicals shouldn't like Trump. But they rejected advertising dollars from Dr. James West, publisher, about his brand new book, and that interview is going out this week. Fascinating.
Yeah, dose them. My oldest daughter, the infamous Hannah Giles, she sent me an Instagram video yesterday, Jimmy, that showed that the Catholic Church, I'm talking about the Vatican, was in charge of moving a lot of unaccompanied minors ever since Obama, but really spiked during Biden. What are they going to do with those young minors, those unaccompanied 60, 80,000 of them that are just poof, gone into our nation? I think we ought to dose them. I think we ought to figure out what's going on. Do you know that I was hunting deep West Texas, between Fort Stockton and Balmorhea, way down in Trans-Pecos, big sky country. And I asked my guide, it's like, do you go to church, man? He goes, no, I believe in God. I was raised Catholic. He said, the only option that we have in my area is a Catholic church that the cartel run and operate. So you got this Catholic priest, new car, new building, new pews, new everything. Anytime he needs anything or has some afflatus of what the Lord wants them to build or do anymore, then it is taken care of by the cartel. He said, it is so clear. It's so corrupt. He said, to hell with it all. I say, Jimmy, dose it.
Dose it. DOCE, Department of Church Efficiency. I saw this piece. You mentioned the Catholic Church. I saw this Babylon Bee headline. It says the Vatican announces their new policy on Scripture is anything that the Democrats think. It's kind of, that's Babylon Bee is always a little bit. They're always over target and always funny.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the Onion. It's like this stuff is it's clear satire, but now it's like coming to pass. It's true. It's absolutely true. And I don't know how people And look, I get being raised Democrat or being raised Catholic or being raised Baptist. People, use your flipping mind, judge this stuff. You know, Paul said, examine your faith. And if your denomination or your non-denomination has gone woke and they've embraced anti-biblical, anti-Christian stuff, dose them, move,
yeah.
cut them off financially, and buy my book, Biblical Warrior Collection.
Yeah.
It'll shoot adrenaline into your soul.
That's it. And if folks who don't know, Doug writes books. He's also an artist. And you've always said that if life imitates art, don't have crappy art. So there's a Trump collection.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know, I see people's homes and stuff, and they don't have the bare walls. It's like, man, come on. Feed your soul. Winston Churchill said, we build our homes, and then our homes build us. So, again, you know, going back to my maxim, if life imitates art, man, don't get lame-ass art. That's for sure.
I've still got to get back with you on a space on my other studio where we do the Critical Mission podcast to get a piece of yours behind me. I got distracted starting this whole thing and need to get back and give you some measurements and get some suggestions from you. Doug, if somebody doesn't know about what you do, know about your art, they can go to douggiles.art, Doug Giles Art, just look it up and you'll see it. If they want to read this latest on dosing and the Department of Church Efficiency, where do they go?
Yeah, so my Mr. Rogers neighborhood, where you can find everything Doug related, is Doug Giles. That's GILES.net. Boom.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's my whole little bio tree right there, man. They can find everything, and I mean everything, at Doug Giles, GILES.net.
DougGiles.net. If you want to read this piece, I'll also put it out there on my tweeters and my rumbles and wherever we put all that stuff. We'll get it out there as well. It's a great read. Doug, God bless you. I'm glad you're feeling better. And you got any fishing trips coming up? Huntings? Warm weather trips?
Yeah. You know, I was wanting to go today when it turned 4 degrees, but that stuff coming up in the spring, man. Going back to South Florida. I love it.
I'm thinking I need a warm weather trip here real soon. Doug Giles, appreciate you. God bless you. DougGiles.net, DougGiles.net. And the piece on dose is funny, especially those of you like myself involved in the church world and having been involved in church world for a long time. Maybe there should be some dosing. And remember, there's never, he is right, there's a parallel that anytime you have great things happening, there's always kind of a forerunner, and there's always a lot of chopping that goes on. And maybe we're watching before the glory days or the return of the golden era. You got to have some chopping, and that's what Elon's doing. That's what DOGE is doing. There's going to be some chopping to get back to sanity, and it's going to hurt a little bit, but it's all right. Hey, remember we talked about the Mozambique circumcisions? Yeah, there was a little chopping that went on, and then you were part of God's covenant in the Jewish Old Testament. Look it up. So there's always some chopping that has to go on. All right, good to have you here on the show. We're about ready to do the. I did not play the J.D. Vance videos again. I talked about it, but for the sake of time with Steve Laffey, I did not play him again. But I see them in the queue here. I want you to go do a couple of things for me. Tomorrow, if you haven't subscribed to the Critical Mission podcast, tomorrow maybe we'll find a clip. I'll find a clip. Doug Giles was on that. If you ever say, well, Doug's just kind of off the wall, he's wild, he's crazy, you like him. A lot of you love Doug Giles. When I got kicked out of the corporate radio world, everybody said, please make sure your brother from a different mother, Doug Giles, is with you. And Doug has graciously agreed. But he's got a great story, a great testimony. As far as Christ in his life and his come to Christianity, and it is it's literally, in a sense, a modern day, and some of you know what this means. If not, look it up. A Damascus Road experience. If you have not heard that Critical Mission podcast, go to mymissioniscritical.com or just look up Jimmy Lakey on any of the platforms. It's free, and look up the version with Doug Giles. And there came a time that if it wasn't an audible voice, it was dang close. And Doug Giles was anything but Christian at the time through high school and college. And Lubbock, Texas is the epicenter for it. But you go watch it. It's free, or listen to it. It's mymissioniscritical.com, mymissioniscritical.com, and I'll see if I can find the link and link that out. But we'll get a highlight of that because some of you really love Doug Giles. All right, final question, and then we're going to do meme roulette. The final question of the day is which presidential library have you been to? Which one are you most likely to go see? Which one would you not want to go see? And it all stems from a story about Barry Hussein Obama, and his library is over budget, over time. There's no sign. There's no end date. They say now it's going to be 2026, but if you look at it, he's being sued now by another $40 million because of some DEI stuff. Construction of his long-awaited library began with ambitious plans for diversity, equity, inclusion, but now it's plagued by huge cost overruns. A $40.75 million lawsuit is happening. The costs have ballooned from an initial, listen to this, $350 million is what they budgeted for. And already, and it's not even close to done, and it's at $830 million with no publicly available figures for updating. So those were numbers. $830 million was 2021. It's so bad that now we're in 2025, and they had gone from $350 million to $830 million, and now we're 2025, and they're not releasing numbers anymore. They said it's an ambitious goal for certain construction diversity quotas, contracts to be allocated for diverse suppliers, 35% of which were required to be minority-based, and it goes on through there. But now it's in a disaster, and I guarantee you, if they were at $800 million in 2021, this is going to be if they could finish it, it's going to be $1 billion presidential shrine to Barry Hussein, the narcissist Obama. And he's building this great shrine to himself, but his narcissism can't overcome his stupidity and his DEI work. And will it ever get done? And by the way, it's an ugly building, an ugly edifice. So that brings us to the question today: which museums have you been to, and which ones do you want to go to? I saw Jackie put up earlier the Eisenhower Museum. A lot of you shouting about Eisenhower Museum. And maybe that's because it's easy center of the country. Eisenhower, the Truman one, I've never been to. Eisenhower, Abilene, Kansas, I haven't seen that. And it's how many have you been to? Which one do you want to go to? If right now I could buy you a one-way ticket or two-way, a round trip, I'll get you back here, wherever you're going. If you could go tomorrow to see one, which one would you go to? Is there one that you absolutely, I mean, maybe someone to twist your arm to go? I mean, I guess Willie Jeffs Clinton is that way. I was in Atlanta for some music business when I was in the music business more than I am now. And I was in Atlanta and I passed the Jimmy Carter one and I said, but I've heard the same thing that Steve Laffey said. It's very sad. Anybody been to the Carter Museum? The Reagan one, you got to go to. The Reagan one's fantastic. Walk through Air Force One. It's very, very well done. And I'm a collector of Ronald Reagan stuff. So that's a good thing. If you've seen the other studio for the Critical Mission, you'll see it depends on the angle of the camera. You've got Reagan stuff up on the walls and Trump stuff, and it's called a Wall of Greatness, and I'm on it as well. I put myself up there. All right, very quickly, we're going to do meme roulette, but can I remind you of some special event that's coming up here real soon? It's May the 17th. It's a night of charity, and it's our charity gala, casino gala. It's all for fun. There's no real wagering. As we'd say, illegal to do that stuff. But this is fun. We have teachers that come in, and if you ever had a casino night, they'll teach you with fun, with fake chips and stuff, and you'll play craps and all the stuff you do. And it's all just for fun. That's all it is. But it's a casino gala, and it's presented. Our title sponsor of that event, May the 17th, is Budget Home Supply. And it's a glorious time of year, getting into the early spring in Colorado, and it's at the Omni Interlochen Resort in Broomfield, Colorado. They have an outdoor pavilion. That's where we're set to be at, and so you're covered from the top and the sides. But it's wear your Vegas best, or wear jeans. We don't care. There's no real dress code. We have best dressed. It's just a fun night, and it's a casino gala. And the registration information is up on the Rivers Promise website, riverspromise.com or riverspromise.org. You'll see an events tab. Go there and you can see. And we still got even a couple sponsorship opportunities there available, I believe. You can sponsor a table and bring, if you come and then 7 of your other friends, a table of 8, you can see you save some money if you do that. But you don't have to bring a table, just bring yourself. But it's a date night. If you'll get information if you're coming in from out of town about a block of rooms, or just want to stay the night and make kind of a staycation out of it. There's a block of rooms at a great discount. It's a great resort, great hotel, and it's in Broomfield, halfway there between the Boulders and the Denver. And if you're flying the private jet in, because some of you are a highbrow coming in, it's right next to what used to be known as the Jeffco Airport, and now it's called something else. But it's so if you're flying private in, feel free. Just fly right in there, and it's literally in the flight path, and it's right there. And that's why we did it there, for all of you high rollers that want to come in, all of you whales that want to fly in and play fake gambling with us from Vegas. There's a private airport right there next to it. I'm just saying that out there. Just throw that out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we steal memes from around the globe. I spin this little fake globe that I got I think this was in a free whiskey kit. I think I won it at an auction. I bought some whiskey, and I think the Globe came with it. It was like in a kit. It was in a gift basket is what it was. That's what I mean. And somehow the Globe matched with the whiskey. So I've kept the Globe for some reason. I drank the whiskey because that's what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, we steal memes from around the globe. So I use this as a little cheap prop because we're on a budget. And this is a very expensive hobby. And I did not want to add added expenses to the program. So this is my cheap, reused, refurbished, repurposed is what I say, globe, and we say round and round the world we go. We steal the memes from where we do not know. Stealing millions, stealing billions, stealing trillions. I gotta blow it up. I'm on the small version of my screen, so I can't see. Oh yeah, there's the Congress. The Congress is at the bottom. Yeah, that's the Congress stealing trillions and trillions of dollars. I like that. Round and round the world we go. Where we land, no one knows. We steal the world's memes. Oh, this is so exciting. Look at the top row. They changed the names and logos from the Aunt Jemima, and they had to call it the Red Pearl Milling Company. They took the Native American off the butter. They took Uncle Ben off the rice. They changed the Cleveland Indians to the Cleveland, I don't know what the hell they are. Who cares? And the Washington Redskins had to become the Washington Commanders. And they're all giddy and happy and patting themselves on the hind end saying, look, we changed the name. Donald Trump changes the name to Gulf of America. And these name-changing Sacagaweas are freaking the hell out. And it just shows the hypocrisy out there. For some reason, changing the name is good for thee, but not for we. It's good for them, but not for us. And that's it. That's a great illustration of what we're watching. Again, the people squawking about the Gulf of America are the ones that were squawking because you had people of color, if you will, sitting on a syrup bottle, and they think the world has changed. All right, spin the wheel. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here we go. Oh, here we go. This is funny. There's old Joe Biden. There's no way Trump will do as much as I did in 4 years. His caretaker, his nurse, obviously he's off the meds there. Caretaker says, you're right. It took him about 4 minutes to do it. This is true. I go back to that question. Name something Joe did to try to end the war in Ukraine. He did nothing. I mean, he talked a lot and talked some slap and hype. And all right, spin the wheel. Round and round the world we go. See how many more memes we can steal for the show. This is so true. As a Gen Xer, this is what happens in the world. Yeah, boomers are always angry. Yeah, millennials are accusing people. You got the Gen Zers. And that's us. I'm a Gen Xer. That is so a Gen Xer. We're like, screw it. Here we go. I'm a Gen Xer, and I relate to that one. Ladies and gentlemen, spin the wheel. Round and round the world we go. We steal the memes from where we do not know. Oh, we drained the meme machine. Oh, I got another meme. Hillary Clinton in 1994. We could use someone like Donald Trump as president, someone who could not be bought or changed. Hillary did say that in 1994. Matter of fact, I have a video, and I don't have time for it today. And I've got a couple of these stored away, and I want to play for you. And I posted some of these up, but it's an interview about, I think, the late 80s, early 90s, around that same time, of Orca Winfrey interviewing Donald Trump and asking him, trying to get him to commit to run for president. It's fascinating how quickly they turned on Donald. It really is. Hillary Clinton did say, we need somebody like Donald Trump. We need a good businessman in the White House. They always loved Donald until they didn't. Until they figured out that he was not created by them. They wanted to jump on his gravy train. He didn't need them, and he didn't need the media. And when he bypassed all of them, that's when you're no longer in the club. All right, let me see if we have any more memes. We might have drained the machine. The machine is union workers, and you never know. Ready? Round and round the globe we go. Do we have any more memes to steal for the show? Oh, we do have another meme. Saturday Night Live celebrates 25th anniversary of the last time it was funny. Anybody watch that the other night? I hear Tom Hanks played the part, and I saw a clip of it, of a Trump supporter on a Jeopardy set, and the host was black, and the Trump supporter, of course, wouldn't shake the hand of the black guy. And that told me all I knew, that I don't need to watch this crap. SNL celebrating the 25th anniversary of the last time it was actually funny and relevant. I haven't seen what the ratings did. If anybody saw it, let me know what you thought of it. I'm sure I didn't miss a dang thing. 50th anniversary. Round and round the world we go. We steal the memes to see for the show. Here we go. Mexican word of the day, aroma. Jose told his doctor, I have trouble sleeping at night. So aroma, a lot around the house. Aroma. That's going to get us in trouble one day, those Mexican words of the day. Let's see if you have any more. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hold your horses and spin the wheel. Round the world we go. We steal the memes for the show. All right, we've drained it dry, my friends. We've drained it dry. All right, once again, I want to remind you, if you're not on the Patreon page, it should be patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. An FDR interview went up there. FDR went up there, and then you have the Critical Mission page. That's actually free, and I would love for you to actually. Oh, thank you. Kevin says it's Rocky Mountain Regional Airport. Thank you. It used to be called Jeffco. For years, I called it Jeffco. It's kind of like, you ever do this for years? I know in Colorado, when I moved here many years ago, it's called Mile High Stadium, and then they changed it to Invesco or Plumber's Crack Field or something. Just call it Mile High. We call it Mile High. And so for years it was, I said Plumber's Crack Field. I couldn't think of what else it may be called. It's just, that's where my brain went. What's so funny? Anyway, Jeffco Stadium, Jeffco Airport, and now they called it Rocky Mountain Regional Airport. And you can fly your private jet right in there. The movie Conclave needs to dose. Dose. So you're referring, I haven't seen the movie Conclave, so I don't have the context here, Jim. I apologize for that. But dosed is, again, referring to the article written by Doug Giles, my brother from a different mother, of the Department of Church Reform. And it's at douggiles.net. I don't have the context for it, Jim, but I appreciate you participating out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap this thing up here. You know why? Because producer Chad and I are working. Yeah, we're over our billable hours for the day. Yeah, we're about to get into double time, and double of nothing is double nothing. So we don't want double nothing in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, get your ass to work. You got a lot of Mozambique circumcisions to pay for. There's a whole list of things that your tax dollars need to be at work for. Don't slack today. We need to send the government $32 million for the Prague Civil Society Center. Everybody work hard. The government needs to take some money from you so they can give it to $14 million in social cohesion in Mali. Again, we're still checking on the rate of circumcision in Bangladesh. But again, $10 million needed for the foreskins to happen in voluntary ways in Mozambique. So I'm just telling you, UC Berkeley needs some money for a cohort of Cambodian youth. So everybody get to work. Don't hang out here any longer. You got to go to work. We've got money to send around the globe. We've got to fund dumbass projects. We've got to fund the Clinton Foundation in Haiti. Everybody get to work. Your lords and your masters in Washington, D.C. are counting on you so that they can tax you and then send your money to irrelevant dumbass projects around the globe. Everybody get to work. Work along. Again, circumcisions to pay for. Biodiversity, DEI, we got to pay for it all. Get out of here. God bless you. God bless America. I'm Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here. Thanks to Holmes for sharing. Appreciate you.